From TLDR News, this is your daily briefing for Thursday, the 7th of July 2022. Good afternoon. Today we'll be discussing some of the biggest stories, including France's nationalisation of EDF and Latvia reintroduces military service. We'll also be discussing the chaos besetting the UK's political system and how it's impacted our content. But first, the Prime Minister resigns. In shock news this morning, the Prime Minister has announced his resignation. The last 48 hours have been utter chaos here in British politics, and at times it's been quite hard to keep up with. In effect though, this morning Johnson was under insurmountable pressure from his cabinet to quit. His new Chancellor urged him to go in a rather Game of Thrones style move. Even more dramatically, his newly appointed Education Secretary, Michelle Donnellan, resigned after less than 48 hours in her role. In total, Sky News has reported that there have been more than 60 resignations from the government. Questions have started to be asked about whether Johnson might simply not be able to run the government with so few people in post, and so few people able to replace those that have resigned. At the end of the day, his position just became untenable. What happens now is anyone's guess. Moving to France, where the French government is to fully nationalise Électricité de France, or EDF. The French state already owns about 80% of the energy company. The French PM, Elisabeth Borne, made the announcement during her key policy speech to the National Assembly. Buying the shares at current price would cost the government about €5 billion. Borne told the divided parliament that the legislative elections in June, where Macron lost his absolute parliamentary majority, showed that people wanted politicians to do things differently. She also said that we will approach each text or bill in a spirit of dialogue, compromise and openness. The move comes after the French government ordered EDF back in January to cap wholesale prices at 4% for a year, at a cost of more than €8.5 billion. There's more on the way, but be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to make the daily briefing part of your daily routine, or just search for us on your podcast app to listen along. The heads of the FBI and MI5 have made an unprecedented joint address calling China the biggest long-term threat to economic and national security. The FBI's Christopher Wray and MI5's Ken McCallum warned Western business leaders that the Chinese government is, quote, set on stealing your technology through economic espionage and hacking operations and using it to undercut your business and dominate your market. A Chinese spokesperson for the Chinese embassy said the allegations against China by US and UK intelligence officials are completely groundless, and they should abandon the Cold War mentality. Wray and McCallum told business leaders and academics to be cautious and encouraged them to partner with the FBI and MI5. Latvia will reintroduce compulsory military service 15 years after ending the measure, amid Russia's war in Ukraine, the country's defence minister has announced. The minister said the current military system of Latvia has reached its limits, and we have no reason to think that Russia will change its behaviour. The country, whose neighbours include Russia and Belarus, has 7,500 active duty soldiers, backed up by 1,500 NATO troops. Mandatory military service will be phased in next year for men between the ages of 18 and 27, with options available including service in the army or government ministries and services. The new measure will be voted on by Parliament later this year, while the country scales up its defence capabilities, including building a new military base and increasing spending to 2.5% of GDP. In a bid to protect high-risk users from cyber attacks, Apple has announced that it will launch a new security feature entitled Lockdown Mode from autumn. The setting, which will be available across iPhones, iPads and Macs, will block a huge array of message attachments, disable link previews, turn off aspects of JavaScript, lock down wired conversations to accessories and computers, as well as block invitations and FaceTime calls from unknown sources. The move comes after Google's Project Zero team revealed that iPhones had been targeted by the Pegasus software via a zero-click attachment via iMessage. Apple has already launched a lawsuit against NSO Group, the group behind the Pegasus spyware, and is seeking a permanent injunction to block the group from using any Apple software, services, or devices. That's all we have time for on YouTube today, but there is more. That's because in the extended version of the show, we have a discussion about the aftermath of Johnson's resignation and my conversation with Jack about how all of this chaos is impacting TLDR's content and how we're responding to it. You can watch that extended edition only on Nebula. Nebula subscribers not only get everything you've already watched ad-free, but also an extended edition of the show every single day, available to watch on Nebula or stream on your podcast app of choice. So if you want to support the channel and get a more extensive daily briefing every day, you'll want to sign up. And there's good news. Our friends at CuriosityStream, the streaming service which offers some of the best documentaries, is offering a deal whereby you can get both platforms, CuriosityStream and Nebula, for less than $15 a year. That's all the best documentaries you could want on CuriosityStream, and then more TLDR on Nebula, including the extended briefing, other full exclusive TLDR videos, and it's always ad-free. Click the link below to get both services for less than $15 a year and support the channel.